Next, let's welcome Karina Mooradian and Linda Bosley, both volunteer docents at Fort Tejon.
Good evening. My name is Karina, and this is Linda Bosley. I am the president of the Fort Tejon Historical Association, and Linda Bosley here is the chairwoman. Now, what I want to do is I want to first tell you a little bit about Fort Tejon. How many of you have actually visited Fort Tejon? Sweet. Okay, Fort Tejon is a real Army fort that dates back to 1854. Now, the U.S. Army put the fort over there to patrol the area when, because of all the white settlers coming in during the 49ers or during the gold rush. And apparently there were a lot of harassment of the local Indians here. So they put the fort over there to patrol the ridge route and also the locals. Now what happened is that during the Civil War, Lincoln administration sent a wire to Fort Tejon back in July of 1861 requesting reinforcements. And there were two regiments of deployments from Fort Tejon to the Civil War. After the second one, the Fort Tejon was abandoned. By September 11, 1864, the fort was finally abandoned. Now, 9 of our officers who joined the Civil War became generals. So 9 of our officers became generals, 5 Confederate, 4 Union. Imagine that. Over here, they were all blue. Over there, they went their separate ways. Now, what we do at Fort Tejon is that we try to keep the history alive and preserve the buildings and the history and bring history back into our community. Now, every first Saturday of the month, the fort comes alive as if it's 1856. Now, when you walk in, you feel like you walked into a history book. You'll see the dragoons, who are the mounted infantry, and you'll see them in the barracks, or you will see them drilling on the parade grounds. You will see the carpenter and the blacksmith and the quartermaster building, and we have the candle maker and the laundress. And then if you walk up the captain's house, which is Captain Gardner's house, you will see the ladies either mending and sewing and knitting. And then if you go further into the building, you'll see the ladies cooking period foods. We churn our butter and prepare a full meal that at the end of the day feeds the soldiers or the volunteers. And now I'd like to introduce Linda Bosley to talk about more about what we do with the association and how it helps.
Okay, I'm a teacher, so I normally don't need a microphone, but I'll use it. Let's see. There we go. Okay, as Karina said, I'm the chairperson for the FTHA for the last 2 years, and I have my little cheat sheet here because I don't want to forget anything. The Fort Tejon Historical Association has been in existence since 1983. We've been around for quite a long time. And our mission is threefold, if you will. We raise money to help to restore and preserve the historical structures at the fort. And during the 80s and early 90s, quite a few of our older members, how shall I refer to them, our elder statesmen?
Dinosaurs?
Oh, okay, there you go. Did a lot of that work. Bonnie, didn't you help put down the floor in the store? Yeah. There's a lot of people in the community that help do that. Karina and I are, I guess, relatively newcomers. I actually started coming to the fort in the 1980s with my 8th grade U.S. history students. And that's back when LA City Councilman actually gave the schools money for field trips and things like that. And so I used to come in the 80s when the FDHA's Civil War program was in full swing. And I really enjoyed that. And then I became a part of the Historical Association in 2004. And Karina?
2010.
2010. So we're considered newbies compared to some of our older members. Now, we are a cooperating association. Okay, a cooperating association means we have a contract with the state of California, Parks and Recreation. We are a nonprofit, and we share events with the state of California and also host our own events. So we preserve the structures. We've helped to rebuild structures. Our main focus is the educational experience for the public through living history. I honestly am not a Civil War reenactor. I know it's hard to believe. Karina is. I am not. I am a living historian, and you might ask, what's the difference? It just means that I teach across time, and I'm actually an eighth grade U.S. history teacher, and so I believe in addressing all the different elements of not only California history but U.S. history. And so we have both represented through the FTHA, both living historians and Civil War reenactors. The final prong, I guess, of the FTHA's mission is to support student living history. Are any of you familiar with the Student Living History Program? A couple of people are? Okay. The Student Living History Program at the Fort has been going on for many years, and we actually had a couple of individuals who stopped by the store a couple of months ago during our Civil War Invitational who had gone through the program as fourth graders, and they were there with their children. And they talked very fondly about the program. So that was at least 15 to 20 years ago that the program has been in existence. And what happens, I'm going to tell you a little story. What happens is it's mostly geared towards fourth graders, but last year we had eighth graders also, and we've had high school students. And what happens to the children is when they show up at the fort, about 8:30, 9 o'clock on a weekday morning, they are greeted by the interpretive staff who lead them out to the parade ground area where they're given an orientation. Short, about a half hour.
Yes.
Yep, about a half hour. And then they become recruits. It is 1856. They don the jackets, okay, of dragoons. We have jackets in all sizes for the children. And they immediately assume a full immersion experience, 36 hours. Yeah, full immersion. And so they are divided up into companies, and they begin the tasks of the day. And there are different stations where the children visit. They may be churning butter up at the officer's house in the kitchen. They may then head over to the adobe brick making area where they actually make adobe bricks. And you might wonder, well, how do the kids know? They fire a gun or whatever. We recently got a sound system installed through the state that plays the actual bugle signals that the soldiers would have heard during the day. And that's what tells the children to move on to the different stations. This is adobe brick making. They do their laundry, okay, at the laundry shed. We have candle making. Okay, this is time for my cheat sheet. They haul water from the well with the yoke and the buckets. Let's see. Oh, of course, drilling. And that evening, when they finally fall into bed, very, very tired, they sleep on straw pallets. So it's a pallet, a mattress with straw in it, on the actual wood floor in the barracks. And it's fabulous. Now, for every 5 children, is it, we have a parent or a teacher, correct?
Yes.
And so the parents and teachers come up 3 times a year for volunteer training, and that's when we are there to run them through the different stations. Because this is during the week, I'm in the classroom, Karina's at her legal firm as a paralegal. We can't physically be there, so the parents are trained to do this in advance. You might wonder how it runs so smoothly. The reason we're both very enthusiastic about this particular program is that these young people are the future, okay, of California and the United States. And I was a little, I don't know, it's great to see y'all, but I was a little disappointed there's not any young people here. Not really. And in order for us to preserve Fort Tejon and the history of Fraser Park, Pine Mountain, we need to impart that to children. Okay, they are very, very important. And
Can I add something to that?
absolutely.
As a matter of fact, I started as a chaperone with my son's 4th grade class. I came to Fort Tejon, fell in love. I was the laundress, and I helped the school, helped my school go through the program. I fell in love with the fort and never left. Now, my son at the time was 9 years old. He is now 14 years old. He is an avid volunteer of the fort, and he is an apprentice with the blacksmith. So there's a lot of benefits. Whatever the kids learn in 4th grade, it stays with them. Throughout their entire education, they go through many field trips, but they will never forget the field trip at Fort Tejon.
And as many of you may know, we were on the state park closure list 2 years ago. And we've been asked many times, is that a possibility again with the state of California? Anything's possible with the state of California. After teaching with Los Angeles Unified for 31 years, I can tell you anything is possible. I don't think that we're going to close in the sense that it was 2 years ago, But are you aware that it's possible the state of California park system may go the way of private concessions as Arizona State has? I don't know if you're aware of that. And as voters, you should be aware because the fort is a jewel. It really is. When you go to some of the other historical sites, they're wonderful, but they don't have the volunteer base that we do here for living history. And we try to definitely impart that to the public. Okay, as far as our events go, in case you're not aware of them, if you want to come up in February when we got a little snow, the first Saturday in February, we have our second California Volunteers event. And is that Civil War era?
No, it's 1856.
It is 1856.
Yes, ma'am.
Because, Dom's there sometimes doing the drilling. I was wondered about that. And as Karina mentioned, the first Saturday of every month, we do Dragoons Living History. We have our annual Civil War Invitational. You're all invited. Everybody always says, do we need an invitation? Nah, just come on up. And that's at the end of May. And this last year we had about 300 Civil War reenactors and civilians. And I don't know, roughly 700 members of the public came. Abraham Lincoln was there, our very own Abe Lincoln, Bob Brodsky, and Jeff Davis was there. We had a good press conference. It was very interesting. We're going to have a moderator next time. Woof. Okay. And President Lincoln did give the Gettysburg Address. We had 2 battles on Sunday. But the reenactment is also up on Saturday. A lot of people don't know that. We don't publicize it as a public day because Sunday we have all the stuff, the bells and whistles for the public. But the public is welcome to come on Saturday because that's the reenactors' day. That's when they have pay call, mail call. They get out and do a little drilling. Sometimes they do a little backcountry drilling, go out and get wood for their company, and they have one battle that day. So it's kind of interesting to see that aspect of their life too. And that's the last weekend in May. We also hosted our second annual Victorian Tea Party in June, which was a sellout and a lot of fun. We were planning on doing a School of the Soldier next year. And this is where Civil War reenactors, commissioned and non-commissioned, would come up and learn the different skills that they would need to be soldiers. And this November, the first Saturday of November, we're going to have a timeline event. And the timeline is going to portray from the early 1800s, when mountain men were in this area, all the way through to 1933. Because there were, even though the fort closed in 1864, there was different groups that occupied the fort along the way to 1933. And that would also include the California and Rancho era, those of us who are familiar with that. And then finally, I know you guys are probably tired of hearing me, our Ghost Walk, okay, will be on October 18th this year. It is the only nighttime event that was open to the public. You have to realize we do have the Civil War stuff and things where they camp over, but that's not open to the public. The Ghost Walk tour is open to the public. It's the only nighttime event. And Karina, you want to talk more about it?
Absolutely.
Okay,
It's my
I'm
favorite.
going to give it back to Karina.
Who knows about Peter Lebec? Well, we know that there's a town called Lebec. Well, Peter Lebec was a French trapper, and he was going through the mountains here and with his friend, and a grizzly bear came out and killed him. He was killed by an ex-bear. How do we know this? Well, the friend that he was with, buried him under an oak tree at where the fort is now. And somewhere in his journal wrote that, Peter died and, I buried him. But what he did also is that he carved on the tree, Peter Lebec, October 17, 1837, killed by an ex-bear, meaning grizzly bear. Now, that was 1837. Remember, the fort was active in 1854. So by the time the fort was built in 1854, a bark had grown over the carving. So when the fort was going on, nobody knew that the poor man was buried 3 feet below. Now, 1864, the fort was abandoned. Everybody was gone. But someone back in Bakersfield, one of the Foxtail Rangers, found that journal and read about it. They're like, there's a person buried at Fort Tejon. Let's go see if he's still there. So 1890, the Foxtail Rangers come down from Bakersfield to Fort Tejon. They have a picnic under the oak tree, and they dig him up. It's like, oh yeah, he's there. And they have a picnic. No joke. If you Google Fort Tejon, Peter Lebec, you'll see the pictures. You'll see the picnic picture. Now they bury him right back, and now fast forward to 1954. Now Fort Tejon has become a California state park. Now, just like anything that becomes part of the state property, they have to document everything. That's like a building here, there's a tree over here. Oh yeah, there's a grave over there. Let's see if it's really there. So they exhumed the body again. Poor guy. So they're like, okay, yeah, he's there. There's a head, spine, legs. Okay, everything's there except the two hands. They cover him up, and then now he's there below his marker, 3 feet below his marker. Now, what we do, one of the reasons why we have the ghost walk in October is not necessarily because of Halloween, but because we want to, memorialize his death. And what we're gonna, just like Miss Bosley said, it is a rare event where the state park actually allows visitors in the park after dark. Now, visitors, when they come to the fort, they will have a tour of the grounds, including the grave of Peter LeBec, and maybe even get a chance to meet Peter and the bear. Thank you very much.
By the way, there is a rumor circulating that there is a Civil War event this weekend at the fort, and there is. We do 2 small-scale Civil War events outside of our large invitational. I couldn't tell you how many reenactors will be there because we never know till they show up. But on Sunday, if we have enough men there, we will have some battle demonstrations. So if you want to mosey on over, the post store will be open, and the volunteers will be there, and we'd love to see you. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Karina and Linda. We really appreciate that. Guys, if you haven't been out there, you really need to